Perfect. All right. Awesome. Today, the topic that was given was changing landscape of marketing communications in today's pandemic and beyond. It's a very heavy topic because the year uh, have mixed for multiple people. Okay, the way that it has panned out. So, what I would like to first get the whole elephant out of the room, all right, is that 2020 is almost over. Okay, we have to look forward, we have to look towards the new year. And if you look at this week's time cover, I was so happy to see this cover right now, wherein they have actually crossed out 2020, citing the worst year ever. Okay, now that's contentious whether it's actually the worst year ever, but the symbolic nature of striking it out, which they have done it just 4 times in the last 100 years, when Hitler was killed, or Saddam Hussein or Osama bin Laden. These kind of historic moments, this cover shares it. So, one thing we all have to congratulate ourselves that if we are here and we are actually working, we are probably amongst the lucky ones, and we should make the best out of it. So that is out of the way. Now, there are so many esteemed experts in this panel, and amongst the audience, so there is nothing that probably you would not know. Okay, from my perspective, what I believe is that I'm still a learner. All right, and this particular year has taught that, drilled that thing completely into the head. Because what I believe is that this year has actually taught us marketing industry for the first time that there is actually what it feels to be without a playbook. Our industry, the communication industry, has been built around creating case studies, learning from the past, and devising the route for the future. But this is the first year where it is uncharted territory and there is no playbook. And I dare say that we all, in this forum and beyond, are actually creating the playbook as the year progresses and as we get on to 2021. So I don't claim to know everything, and I think we all should put on the learning hat and see how things pan out and make our own decisions and make sure our industry is protected and it thrives beyond 2020 into 2021. So today, it's not about telling anything majorly new. What I have seen is that what 2020 has done is majorly compressed almost 10 years worth of development into last 1 year, probably, or maybe 2 years. So there is a lot of accelerations that have happened. So majority of the trends and the communication landscape that I will share with you are mostly accelerations. Okay, they are not like completely new things that have come out of nowhere, right? But there are certain things which have been revived, and there are certain new developments which have happened. So in the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to share with you just this: two accelerations that I've seen, which is practical and probably will impact all our plans as we go forward. Two developments which have been there very latent, and has suddenly now, because of technology and because of COVID in particular, has come up. And one revival of probably a trend or some user behavior which thought was dead, and now suddenly it has risen from the ashes. And how so? Okay, so it's two, one, and that's looking forward to 2021. Pardon the pun, but yeah, that's how it is: two accelerations, two developments, and one revival. Let me go to the first one. And the first one is essentially probably very common, and you all would already intuitively know this, that this is happening. And that is an in-home entertainment landscape, or in-home content landscape. And that is essentially this OTT boom that we are seeing. All right, this OTT boom is significant because this is right now TomTom as a future of media, a future of TV, and it is also saving the movie industry and the entertainment industry in this pandemic. But the point to note is that this boom has certain implications for us. All right. Now, let me share with you something, some very fresh data from just this week. And this is incidentally from Kantar and the Trade Desk. All right. As you see here, almost 8 billion hours of OTT are watched in a month in Southeast Asia, in this market that we're sitting in. And Philippines, by the way, is probably the highest in the usage, which is 3.1 hours a day per user. Just and Thailand is slightly more high on frequency, but that is about 19 days a month. But Philippines is right up there. All right. And this is a very, very interesting thing to note. And if you look at all the other markets, the bubble size indicates a total amount of hours watched or minutes watched in millions. Okay. So this indicates that every market is primed, and it's not about where the evolution of the market is. A highly evolved market needs to be higher up the chain. No, Singapore is not that high because of the size and because of the usage, that they are already pretty much saturated from that POV. But Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia is all growing and growing fast. And the research also indicates that people will continue to. This is not just a COVID impact, but they will continue to do. Continue to keep watching and continue with the exact same fervor on the OTT, and going back to the linear or on demand TV is probably not that sort of in their minds. Okay. So what does it mean for us? All right. So the first acceleration, we see that this OTT, which is compressed almost probably 3 years of numbers into 1 year. But what does it mean for us? It just means three very simple things. And I'll talk about one case study which just happened last month. All right. And this is for Oreo, and they created a vault to save the Oreos. I'm not sure if you all have seen it, but um, this vault is, you should go and check out this video and this whole campaign. This was in response to a tweet, because there was an asteroid which was supposed to hit the earth in October, just a couple of months back. And somebody asked who will save the Oreos, and the marketing team took it up, and they actually created an vault, just like the seed vault in Iceland, in Norway, I think. And they created this vault, and it's very hilarious. It's a dark humor, uh, manifesting itself in a marketing strategy and a communication strategy. What it means is that because the consumers are used to a much more global content because of OTT, and the consumers are also used to now probably watching uh, programs which are not from their own country. Like my own consumption pattern is now watching Spanish dramas and other country and other language dramas, because subtitles are there and it's easily accessible on Netflix or on Prime and so on and so forth. So our the user's mind enhances, and there is an enhanced expectation from the content, and that is what marketers like us and advertising agencies like us, we should keep that in mind. Second part about the global outreach and outlook and reach. Essentially, that means that now you have a huge audience, wherein if you are able to get a content in one of these platforms, it's not limited to geographies, and it can be accessed across the board. And last, and this is something which I have seen in Malaysia, and probably later we can discuss whether it's happening in other markets, is the connected TVs have surpassed desktop in terms of the impressions, and that probably should be in your plans. And this is essentially because of the higher OTT penetration. So that was the first acceleration. Second acceleration uh, is this. It sounds very simple: surge of first time online buyers. But couple of months back, I was analyzing a data for a large online player in the region, and the ratio of experienced buyer in their portfolio was much higher. Like, it was significant chunk. We're talking about 80-90% before COVID, and now it has gone down drastically. What that means is that the people who would have had a long gestation period to scale up and reach a stage of comfort with online buying, and now they have been thrust into it, and there's a leapfrogging wherein they have become experts and experienced buyers in a very short period of time. And they're the first time buyers who are coming onto e-commerce platforms. And this will have a huge impact on the way that we frame our communication architecture and the whole marketing architecture. And if you look at the data, this is what I was talking. It's not only in Malaysia, it is happening in Australia, Argentina, US, Mexico, and I'm quite sure that this will be the trend across the board. And the data suggests that 48% of people, or 50% nearly, they will continue to shop online post COVID. So this is not a spike which will die off very soon. What does it mean for marketers? What does it mean for brands and communication specialists? Is that in the architecture, if the discovery, there is something that I call uh, e-commerce discovery, and this is like beyond Google search. There is a lot of search that happens on e-commerce platforms itself. Amazon has been using that globally, wherein you don't go to Google to search for a product, you straight away go to the e-commerce platform like Amazon, and in Malaysia it's Lazada or Shopee, wherein you go there and you search for the product, and that's your discovery of the product. So you need to be there, you need to be upfront, and right in the opening, the upper funnel of marketing is where your brand discovery needs to be there. And believe it or not, Proton, one of the car manufacturers in Malaysia, has an official store in Shopee, which is an e-commerce platform. So things about brands having an e-commerce presence is no more a luxury, or no more something that you will think about it. You need to be there because the consumers are going to have much less patience, and they are first time buyers. The expectation is skyrocketed. People like us who have been buying for last few years, probably will give them some leeway, we will understand the mechanics, but for them it is clear that, oh, I have been buying groceries, it comes fast, why are you having a problem in selling what you're doing? So this is something very, very important to keep in mind, is these two accelerations. Now let's get down to the two developments, and this is where things get much more interesting and much more crucial. First one, I call it like the virtual rituals. And this is exactly what we are doing right now. All right. Our lives now are consistently being lived in front of screens, in front of cameras, in front of the lights, in front of streaming. So we are streaming our lives. And earlier it was like, okay, it's a very niche thing. But now you all are in it, and this is not going to go away anytime soon. This behavior, this remote working and virtual working. Now what does it mean? And I'll share with you one brand which has done something very significant. It looks so simple, it probably is like so intuitive, but this is a brand that is a global behemoth. Okay, and this is L'Oreal. Just 8th November 13th, last month at this time, launched a virtual makeup line. Now, think about it. You all are using filters. You all already have Snapchat lens or Instagram filters. You're beautifying yourself. But for a makeup brand which thrives on physical products, which is cosmetic, is launching a virtual makeup line for you to look your best in in this scenario where we are in, is a significant move, and this significance will keep increasing as we go, because now brands would be expected to be as relevant to people in this lifestyle, which is virtual lifestyle, as they were earlier in the physical or in-person lifestyle. So this is something to keep in mind, where the virtual rituals have become as increasingly important as probably real in-person ritual. All right. And this one leads into the second development, which is try before buy. Okay, which I have, essentially we all buy things by trying out. Okay, there are certain things. E-commerce always had this biggest problem about how are you going to try out a product, how is the touch and feel, how will it look on me, and especially on fashion, shoes, and so on and so forth. But the try before buy economy, okay, is now booming, because this was eventually supposed to happen, but now it is more ubiquitous than ever. Look at this screen. You have virtual stores popping all over. Recently, we had a product launch of Good Day in Philippines, which is completely virtual. Uh, AR commerce, or augmented reality commerce, and 3D commerce is IKEA used to do it a few years ago, but now almost 3 billion smartphones are AR enabled, web AR enabled, and sales are increasing because you're able to see it, you're able to experience the product. Okay. And this is super duper critical, because the way that you can bring the product into the homes of people or where they are and they can see it before buying, that's where it increases their trust towards the product, and the confidence that I can buy it properly. And there are many companies that are already on the forefront of it. I can buy shoes and try out the shoes virtually, see how it looks on me. I can buy clothes which to see how it looks on me. So even cars, and I will share a case study with you that we have done in terms of how we have even sold BMWs on using augmented reality. All right. So this is another trend that we have to be very, very cognizant about, wherein it's expectation of the consumers to have those trials before buying, which is a very normal tendency. Even on e-commerce, they would like to do that, and I think brands should give it. All right. So these are the two developments that I saw in terms of the virtual rituals and trying before buying. And the last one is a very interesting one, and I think intuitively you all would know it. There is a technology that was almost a couple of decades old, and it's used it predominantly. It was an Asian surge of this, and wallets and e-payment wallets have been using it. But suddenly this COVID and this pandemic has resurrected it, and that is what I call the QR code rises. All right. What you see on your screen is an actual trend from the last about 10 years, where in QR code, you will see that 2020, the moment pandemic hit, has blown past all expectations. And right now, the amount of QR codes being scanned, and because of the native camera app that is allowing this whole thing to be so seamless, is increasing. It does mean that uh, uh, because, and obviously the biggest driver is about all those contact tracing apps across the countries, across the world, where people scan it. So the behavior has changed. Nowadays people are able to, they know it intuitively. Earlier, as marketing communication, when we used to plan a campaign, we had to probably educate somebody to scan something and get into the experience. But now the expectation is that from a media planning and a communication planning point of view, the expectation is very clearly that all touch points can be made touchless. All right. And touchless is not just a pandemic response. I'm guessing, and this is something that I think will happen. Increasingly, people will expect it, that less contact, but yet the experience remains. So scan, experience, transact becomes a very intuitive way of doing it, and there are a lot of brands who are already jumping on this and utilizing it in the best possible way. One recent example would be wherein Burger King created a QR code through the television commercial, when they asked people to scan, and then you will see the King and Little Yachty, the rapper, come alive in front of the TV screen and dance in AR, or the whole music video is in AR in front of you in your living room. So this is just one example, but there are countless other examples. All right. So overall, I have talked about the two accelerations, the two developments, and one revival. Let me show you one case study. And this was done by Entropia in Malaysia for BMW. And this is sort of in terms of the expectation of the content and expectation of how the QR code works, and expectation of try before you buy, how this helped us actually make this campaign a success. And this was the world's first web AR showroom. And just for people who are not probably aware, web AR means that you don't need an app to actually try out the experience. So have a look at this video. All right. So just to recap before we close, the two accelerations, OTT boom and the first time e-commerce shoppers, uh, to two developments, the virtual rituals and the try before buying trend, and one revival, which is the QR code rises. This sort of will impact your consideration of part of the funnel, the engagement and trial part of the funnel, and finally the transaction. So end to end, in terms of the marketing funnel, all these things will have an impact, and they are probably something that we already knew. There's nothing like dramatically rocket science about it, but it is just that we need to be aware about these things which have been compressed and brought in uh, because of specifically to the pandemic and related to the pandemic, and it's not going anywhere. So that's my time. I would like to end with one uplifting video which I thought was one of the most brilliant pieces of communication made in this. It's just a couple of weeks back. All right, so have a look at this, and this will also tell you that the kind of content that people would be more palatable towards as we go into 2021 is having a a dry sense of humor, or even a dark humor positioned in a way which helps you sell in the light of this whole pandemic. It does work. All right, so let's have a look at this, and then we can take questions and get on to the next phase. All right, so this is by a product called Match, but have a look. I won't spoil it for you.
Satan?
Hi. 2020?
Please. Call me 2020. So where are you from?
Hell.
Me too.
Romeo, save me. I've been feeling so alone. I keep waiting for you, but you never come. Is this in my head? I don't know what to think. He knelt to the ground and pulled out a ring and said, marry me, Juliet. You never have to be alone. I love you, and that's all I really know. I talked to your dad, go pick out a white dress. Some love story, baby, just say yes.
I just don't want this year to end.
Who would?
'Cause we were both young when I first saw you.
On that note, let's have a great 2021 and look at the silver linings that we can. Thank you very much. Hope this was useful.